What is going on, podcast listening people? Connor Doobie here. Hope you're doing great wherever in the world you're listening in today. Don't forget, B2B Mentors is on all your favorite podcast apps. Wherever you look us up, you can find us. Please do me a tiny favor. Go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. Don't mind me if I look away. I'm trying to multitask and get the live link here as I give you guys a second to come in. Join the room. Tell me what's going on in your world. And please do me a tiny favor. If you get any value out of this live stream, make sure you share this out with others. I'm going to bring my guest up here in just a moment. Holly, I did get you that link if you're able to share that, my friend. Going to bring my guest up here in just a moment. Before I do that, I have an exciting announcement for you I'd like to share with you. Imagine working on your content marketing plan from a luxury resort. My friends, as a celebration of getting life back to normal, we are giving away a luxury resort trip. If you oversee content marketing in your business, message me for more details on how to get access to that luxury resort trip. Send me a note and I'll share with you on how to do that. So with that, guys, I'm going to jump in here. All righty. I'm going to bring Holly. Hey.
Hi,
I'm like
Connor.
trying to communicate this whole trip thing we're doing. I'm like, that I didn't explain that very well, but we'll worry about that later. Sound like a fun promo.
It was fun, definitely.
Wouldn't you want to be working on your marketing plan from like a tropical beach somewhere?
I don't know if I could concentrate that well.
Yeah, but that would get the creativity, the juices flowing, right?
It could, maybe.
Could do it.
Around the scuba diving and the
sushi
eating and I mean, and the margaritas. I'm sure I can get a little done.
Margarita, mimosas, whatever floats your boat. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining today. I'm extremely excited to have you here and, just share some strategies, insights. What's working for you? What's been leading the way in your career and how have you done it? And I'm sure there's a number of others out there who are really interested to learn as well. So let's start here. Please brag about yourself. I'm going to give you permission to brag about yourself and what led you to where you're at in your life and in your career today.
Thank you. Brag about myself. That is a good one. I'll have to say. Leads me right into it. Okay, so I actually started. I had my degree, my undergrad in marketing, and I ended up. I worked in like media and fashion before 2008, 2009. I think we all know when that time frame occurred was a bit of an economic hardship in the country. And so I ended up migrating to the South, to Texas. And I moved in next door to this person who worked at this place that did this thing called logistics. And I'm thinking, I don't know what this is. And he was showing interest about, hey, why don't you give me your resume? And I thought, okay, I have no idea what this thing is, but we'll do this temporarily for 6 months. And somewhere along the lines, I drank the juice, and I have now been in the industry for over 12 years, pushing 13 without dating myself. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And one of the best things about the industry that I'm in is the fact that the learning curve never ends. So I have been fortunate to be able to bring a unique set of values into my field, because marketing has not really been historically, I would say within the last 5 years, it's become more prominent, but marketing has not been a huge focus of freight forwarding, kind of logistics. It's kind of been like that supply and demand. The demand's always really there, so they didn't really need to do a whole lot of external marketing, if you will. But there's so much now that goes into marketing when you add social channels, when you add, I mean, podcasts, webinars, all these new
It comes in many
means.
different forms, right?
There's so many different methods and channels to deliver your product and your product's message that um, companies within my sector have started to drink that juice now. And so I kind of came to the table with that skill set already. And I would say it was a slow start. I definitely worked my way up. I started at the desk level. I learned the industry. There's something to be said about knowing what you're selling and knowing it not just from a holistic high level perspective, but actually getting down into the dirt with the people, um, understanding the job, understanding all the components of that go into whatever product you're selling, and that has proven to be invaluable to me in my career. And I guess because I was a bit of a sponge and I loved learning and did all these things, I was quickly rewarded by advancement. So
Were you in marketing back in the fashion world?
I was, yes.
So talk
So
about that a little bit. What were you actually doing there?
I worked at um, I worked in like the fashion and media magazine industry, and that was a part-time job that I did there. I also worked at a small software firm as their corporate director of marketing, which was a little different, obviously, than um, fashion and media. I would say that fashion and media was more like my um, preferred arena, right? And the other one was a good experience.
Hmm.
Um, and I was very, very lucky that um, I guess got into the right crowd, the right people within that sector, and um, it's because it's definitely a small sector. I mean, there's not a lot of people in it, but once you're
In the
in it,
fashion world
yeah, like
collectively?
once
Yeah.
you're in it, it's like I could go anywhere, and I could. I mean, even when I went down to Houston, all I did was call up like Modern Luxury Media, and they're like one of the largest city-based magazine or companies in the nation. And they put out like Houston Magazine, they put out um, oh my gosh, Atlanta Magazine, all sorts of city-based magazines, which most people have seen. And I just called them up and I said, "Hey, I live down here now. Are you interested in having some um, work done for your local city magazine here?" They said, "Yeah, absolutely." So it's kind of, I don't take it for granted because I know that not everybody gets those opportunities. And I was very lucky to work for to be, I guess, adopted into that. So
So
um,
then your
yeah,
transition to logistics, like
totally
what the heck
accidental.
sold you on the idea of going into logistics, this weird, unsexy arc? Well, until recently, a very like industry that people, the average person may not put much thought into,
Yeah,
or someone who's in marketing, right? If I'm a marketing student, I may not be thinking like, I want to go be a CMO at a logistics company.
yeah.
What was the allure there?
There wasn't, to be honest. I mean, not at first.
So the
Uh,
money then.
no, no. I took a $20,000 pay cut to come into this industry. I'm not even kidding. So I really, when I say I started at the bottom, I started at the bottom. I started at the entry level desk operations, and
Operations. So not even marketing at that point.
no, no. And it was only through the evolution of my career um within my company that I was working for that
Right.
I started maybe they started discovering more skills that I came to the table with. And I think they knew the skills I came to the table with because I had my resume. And I think that they may have had a plan for me that was kind of already along those lines. Um, and so little by little, or maybe, depending on how you look at it, it could be very rapidly, they started pulling me into the commercial side of things. And I started in like um, operations, and then I cross trained into all the different products for operations, including warehouse and distribution. And then I moved into sales support. And so I was just, supporting the business development organization. And then from there, I was quickly plucked out from there and moved into a regional position, supporting the regional vice president at the time, um, of that district or that area. And you could say I was kind of acting like the right hand man there, and I was able to really, I was given the autonomy to really hone in a lot of the skills that I had not been able to use, since my entry into the organization. And it was kind of like, hey, I know you've got this stuff. Let's put it to good
Yeah.
use. So
This
I
was in
did.
Apex at the time, or this was
This was
pre
this is this
Apex?
is this is this
Right.
is this is the beginning of my career in this industry. So
Yeah.
I have had now since um, my inception into logistics of freight forwarding, have now this is Apex is the fourth forwarder that I've been at. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So and speaking of your past experiences in fashion, you did something really interesting that like caught my attention with Apex at the very beginning of last year. I want to dive into that, but you've excelled in your career pretty quickly up to the stage where you're at right now. What are some of the key, I guess, habits or skill sets that you feel you've refined to grow your, business development and marketing career so fast?
I it's not it's not going to be what you I could sit here and probably stand on a um, soapbox all day long and tell you, you need to get out there and brand your product. You need to get out there and do cold calling all day long. But really, the what has been successful for me has been um, my candor, my reality, and my sense of humility. So these are all human qualities, and I think in so many respects, people forget about these things. Um, that's not saying that those are the only things that advanced me, helped advance me in my career, but I will say that they are significant. They are and were significant differentiators about why I could walk into a room and um, help close a sale versus somebody else go into a room, have the same product, you maybe even the same slide deck and pitch, and I could sell it and they could not. So there's a certain quality that people forget about just being human, being candid, being um, um, real, that a lot of people appreciate, and it's just not necessarily enough out there because we all get pitches, especially now that, I mean, since the pandemic, I mean, it's like our phones are just blowing up all the time and email inboxes. I've never had so many emails in my life as I have since the pandemic. I mean, I thought that having 200 emails, I would say 200 emails in a three-day period of time was bad. And, when you start getting up to the point of 200 to 300 a day, it's something's going on.
Yeah. Gets a little
So
aggressive.
it does. But the humility part of it is a big deal because I have never stopped learning, and you'll never hear me say that I've mastered this or I've mastered that. I know how to do everything about that, and it's because of that. It's like it drives the hunger to continue to get better and to continue to do better. And if you really think about it, that is the epitome of being a leader, right? Is you're always looking to a leader should always be looking for the opportunities within the organization, within whatever sector of your organization that you're working in or that you're leading, to improve upon it. So if your, I guess, operation is picture perfect and never needs to be improved, then you wouldn't necessarily have anything, right?
Right.
There. So anything to worry about, if you will.
So
So
when you've gone in and you've won deals that seemingly other people wouldn't have won in similar scenarios, it's just being real. I mean, I sense it when we talk. Like the first time we talked, we just hit it off because you're easy to talk to and you're not full of it. And is that pretty much just how you've taken the approach?
thank you.
Like, in your sales
That's gonna,
presentations?
I'm gonna
Like,
use that in my next meeting. I'm gonna be like, you know what? You're gonna like me because I'm not full of it.
full of it. No, just wear a shirt and then you don't even have to verbalize it.
Yeah.
I'm not full of it.
I'm so coining that, and I'm putting that on my next shirt.
Guys, go to hollyqualman.com to get the I'm not full of it t-shirts. hollyqualman.com.
Hey, done
might
and
be your
done.
next business venture. You got all the logistics partners set up for you, so I think
I
it would work
do.
really well.
It's so true.
So let's touch on this really quick because you did something really interesting this past year, which is starting a global conversation leveraging marketing in an industry that doesn't really do much marketing or hasn't had to do much marketing over the years because it's just the nature of the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
What are some of the methods? What were some of the actions you took to get this big global dialogue happening that directed the attention right back to your company?
Well, I will first and foremost on this. I will say that I was blessed because I was brought into the organization by somebody who I knew from a previous life, who entrusted me and already had that trust in me. And I moved into this organization under a CEO who also entrusted me, and I think that was the largest factor in my ability to have the autonomy that I've had to create a vision and put that vision to into motion. Um, so coming into first of all, having the opportunity to come into an organization in our industry, doing something that I honestly never would have thought that we would be seeing, podcasts and external advertisements and tear sheets and all these things. I never thought that I'd be seeing these things happening left and right.
How was it predominantly happening before?
It was mostly internal marketing. I would say that most companies were promoting to their current client base. They had or their current prospect and target base, and they weren't doing a ton of you weren't seeing a whole lot of advertisements out there. You weren't seeing a whole lot of activity on social media. You were seeing
LinkedIn
some,
posts weren't they
some,
just
right?
yeah.
I mean, but now it's blowing up, right? So in last year, the pandemic was an interesting place. So it was an interesting. I think that's like the kindest word that you can put to it. It was the pandemic was a real struggle. I think I don't think for everybody, and we really had to think about how we as an organization were going to operate in this completely unknown space called COVID-19. And I, as a marketing leader, had to really think about how now, with a in this unknown space where budget is now going to be very very tightly limited, where channels are going to be completely. Some of them were just gone. They were just done. You just couldn't. I had to kill some of the channels that I had originally planned. How do we make our brand a in my I guess words is a household name? That was one of my goals going in, right? And I thought, okay, so we've got this. I've got a goal that I set into motion when I first came to this company. We're in this little awkward, weird situation now where nobody can leave their home and everybody is, having to learn how to work remote and teach and have their kids at home and all these things. And so therefore everybody's focuses were totally different, which meant that your buyers' focuses were totally different. So I said, how do we approach this? And it took, as small as it may sound, it just took kind of like a lights on moment where I thought, our company had been working to support the transportation of personal protective equipment, PPE, before the pandemic even reached the US. So we actually supported we donated getting a lot of PPE out to Wuhan when it first broke out, trying to help control it at the source, right? Try to stop it at the source. It's unfortunately a viruses viruses do what viruses do, and they spread. Um, and we just pivoted around, and we, as needs occurred in different areas of the world, we would pivot and make and support those areas. And especially when it came into the U.S., then we pivoted to make sure that we were supporting PPE moving into the U.S. But before before it spread, even, well, no, I would say it was right around when it spread, and when it hit the U.S. I think everybody kind of went into like this massive depression. It was a huge change. Everybody's locked at home and um, don't know what to do. We've got it. Oh my gosh, now my kids are out of school. It was a quite depressing time, and it took me, I would say, probably 2 to 3 days to really sit and think about make how can we give people hope, right? Through um, what we are doing. How can we share that message with them so that they can have hope? And so it was a real humanitarian um, thought process that I was taking through this, and it was almost like the light went on, and I thought, I need to call a news source and see what they think about this. And so I called a industry news source, and I said, I think you might be interested in this story. I said, because everywhere I'm reading online, on social media, it's all depressing. Everybody's down, and there's not enough PPE. Everybody's trying to make masks from home. We don't have enough ventilators. I said, but I'm telling you, there's people, there's good people, good companies out there, and we're one of them that's doing some pretty amazing things to support this. And I think that what people really need right now is a sense of hope. And I kid you not, the journalist who was interviewing me for that, she stopped and she said, "This is actually the first time I have thought of PPE from a philanthropy standpoint, and or a humanitarian standpoint." So we published an article, or they published an article, and it was almost like wildfire. Like, I just saw, all of a sudden it was like popping up everywhere. People were talking about other companies in our organization were started to talk more about the things that they were doing to support PPE. How are they supporting the pandemic, and bringing um, freight to, not just from overseas, but even as people. If you recall, I think we all remember the toilet paper crisis, right? Where everybody thought that we were running out of toilet paper. but
Quick,
but
to
bringing
pause you really
attention,
quick,
yeah,
how did you approach it in a philanthropic, is that the right word? Philanthropic?
that's right. Yeah,
Philanthropic. I think that might be right. How did
that,
you
that is.
approach
Yeah.
it that way versus, hey, media source, we've been doing PPE distribution for however long, you should write about us? Like, how did you angle that in a philanthropic way?
Because we actually were doing it in a philanthropic way. So we were actually donating. We paid for quite a bit of the
Wow.
transportation, and we donated PPE.
Wow.
So we knew that we had our organization had and still does have a very strong, we are one of the strongest, if not arguably the strongest charter um, charter airline forwarder on the Trans-Pacific. And since I don't quote me on this exact number, but I believe about 85% of all PPE is actually manufactured out of Asia. So
I could believe that.
yeah. So you see um like, what is that movie, the robots, where they say, you see a need, fill a need, and something like that. It's kind of the approach that we took. So we had this asset, right, that we could provide to serve a larger cause. And it wasn't just like that we're trying to save the world, right? But we were trying to just help. And that's the humility part, right? Where it's like, it's not just me being humble, it's the whole company being humble. Like, we're doing our part. We're doing what we can. And what we can is turned out to be very big and very significant. So we've um, been able to, um, I guess, continue that momentum on the philanthropy standpoint. We've now grown an entire corporate social responsibility program within our company, which
Wow.
I'm actually leading, which is
Out
pretty
of
cool.
that, out of that one.
Well, that was kind of like the start of, that was a trigger to a launching pad, if you will, for us to expand on things that we've already been doing and take all the components of the different other philanthropy things that we do and kind of like say, okay, we really need to just organize this into a formal program so that people really they know who we are. My job as a marketer, right? When I first started in the organization, one of the key things is that our name is Apex, and it's a very common name. It's unfortunately a common name. I said, how do we make, when people think Apex Logistics, when people think Apex Logistics, how can I make it so that they think of us? They don't think of some other company. Then there is another company called Apex Logistics. But
Seriously?
There is.
Wait,
Yeah.
how's that even work out? Can you have
I
the
know.
same business name?
I think so. I think that they're registered. They do a different, I think they do mainly just trucking, but I honestly, but
so you took something you were doing already and the shift, you started communicating about it. And then according to you, it caught on like wildfire. When you say that, like when you say it caught on like wildfire, what happened? Like once you went to that first media source, it was like, hey, we're, let everyone know, like if they need help, we're donating PPE in mass quantities. What happened following that?
It caught on like wildfire, meaning that other forwarders started promoting the same thing, and it's like they jumped on the bandwagon. They thought, oh, it's like I'm not, I mean, quoting them exactly, of course, because I have no idea what they were actually thinking, but my presumption, if I was to put words in their mouth, is that they thought, oh, we have this a similar asset. We can move freight. We can move PPE. We can support our organizations, our companies that we're already working with and doing business with, because a lot of companies transferred at that time. They had to make changes to their orders because they actually had to bring in PPE for their own employees and patrons. So it just became, it really shifted the dynamic of the mood, and that was such a positive thing for me to see, that we went from this completely depressing environment of everybody talking about how much we don't have, to now we're talking about people were talking about what we do have and what we're doing to help each other. And that was, I mean, that you really can't beat that. You have to have hope. So
you found a unique way to tie it in to where your brand came along for the ride, for the journey.
It's funny that you say it like that. It was almost tied together. Like our brand was tied to it because our company was doing it. And so we just hadn't previously. It was just something that we did, right? We did stuff from a philanthropy standpoint. Now you got me tongue tied with it, right?
I don't think any of us can say it properly.
Philanthropic standpoint.
We know how to do it. We can't say it very well.
Right. We had already been doing these things, but we hadn't been sharing them. And so now I thought, it's time to share. And our name is already synonymous with it. And for us, it was just now, like you said, it was tagging what we're doing with our brand so that people would then combine the two together. And the timing, as ironic as it sounds, being the pandemic, the timing was right because people were paying attention. People were at home. They were glued to their computers, right, all the time, because they had that's where their focus was. So everybody on the earth was on social media, for good, bad, whatever reason, and because that was the only way that they could communicate. Many people was their only means of communication. So we had people's attention. So what are you going to do with that attention? So
good point.
Yeah.
So touch on this here real quick for other companies, other marketers who are or business development leaders in similar industries to logistics where they're now starting to make those pivots into like, hey, we should probably look at marketing digitally a little bit, or just marketing in general, not just relying on that one trade show we go to every year to meet our customers.
Right.
What are some of the other consistent activities, channels you're leveraging, approaches to continuing to get the Apex brand out there?
One of the things that we've implemented is keeping on top of the news. So we do invest in a artificial intelligence application to make sure that we understand what the media are talking about. Because if the media is talking about it, that's what people are reading, and this is what people care about. So although that's not a channel per se, right? That is a means of market intelligence and market research. So I cannot stress enough that market research is absolutely pivotal in being successful in marketing, especially in our space. Anything that happens in the world, whether it's a political, whether it's a crisis, weather crisis or something like that, our industry is almost always hit first, right? So we are
positively or negatively, right?
Either
I think
way,
people don't even really think about it that much.
No, they don't.
They're like, oh, Amazon can't deliver this product because of, someone dropped the ball, or something in the logistics process was broken, or vendor went out of business.
Yeah.
I don't think people think about that.
Yeah. So I think that if I'm talking to somebody who's in this space right now, like let's say that they're in freight forwarding, they want to get into marketing, I would have to say that they need to start. They really need to start by actually understanding the industry. I do not, just because I had a marketing degree doesn't mean that I would have been able to walk into this industry and into this job and have done a good job at it. I have to understand this is a dynamic field that changes every day depending on what's going on in different parts of the world, right? And if you don't understand these basic things, if you don't have the hands-on experience to develop the humility that I was talking about before, I would be hard pressed to say that you're going to be successful. So my best advice is be humble. Take time to cross-train, to learn the product, not just learn what it is, but learn how it is, because it's a service. We're in the business of service, and never stop learning. I mean, it's because you're never going to. I guess that's why I love this industry, because I literally every single day something happens. I'm like learning something new. I mean, who'd have guessed that we had a ship stuck in a canal for a week? So,
oh, that was yours.
Oh, that was my ship. Yeah, I take full responsibility. I'm dealing with that one. I'm just kidding.
So, like, there's Holly again.
Yeah. Oh, she can't drive.
Aye. Now, are you on the ship now? Do we need to send in rescue?
Oh, no. Thankfully, they told me I'm no longer allowed on there.
You got off. Okay.
For good reason. So.
Oh, they've restricted you from ships
completely.
Altogether.
Yes, completely.
Airplanes is another story, though.
Airplanes I can do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good at those. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, those are the critical things, and I know that they sound like almost lofty and cheesy, but they really do play a major factor and they played the most pivotal factors for me in my career. And it also is never stop growing. So a wise man once told me many times, you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And so I'm constantly always, I guess I'm not like seeking out like being uncomfortable, but I embrace it. So I embrace change. And that means if something is changing or something needs to be changed, I see that as an opportunity. So, and as a marketer, you have to be, especially in this current market, you have to be okay with change because it's changing a lot
Right.
all the time. So I had to take a very decisive path last year and say, how am I going to succeed in making Apex a household name? That was what I coined it last year in this crazy environment. How am I going to do that? How am I going to put our message out there on a limited budget with totally unique audience, different channels than I originally had planned. And I just had to make a very decisive move that we as a company were going to brand ourselves in the best possible light. We were not going to, we intentionally did not waver as everything kept, the market and social political climates kept changing. We were not going to allow that to change our trajectory of who we are, what we do, our core values. And so we just pushed forward with this is who we are. These are our core values. This is our mission. And I would have to tell you that it was a gamble. A lot of other companies were jumping on bandwagons. As a new bandwagon came up, they were jumping on that bandwagon. As another one came up that might have been completely opposite, they were jumping on that one. That's exhausting, first of all, right? But second of all,
because then you're always chasing versus innovating.
That's right. And so I chose to take a more, you could say it's more of a conservative path, but it was more just a straight path.
Yeah.
This is who we are.
Well, you use the tools at your disposal, like PR. It's like, we're already doing this. Why not bring this to people? Or when you say market research, I think I picked up that you're talking about social listening to what's happening out there in the news. Why are we not communicating this? The news doesn't have to be leading the news. We can lead the news for our customers.
Well, and we're B2B. So you would think that just because it's in the news and then people like citizens are reading these things, that it wouldn't matter. But those are the citizens that run the businesses.
Right.
Right. So
especially in your business,
you have to tie these things together. So
so are you using huge fan, do you do most of your distribution email or LinkedIn or social media? Like, how are you using some of those different channels that others are probably not in your industry?
Well, definitely social. I think that's just a given. But we are very active in social. So we're probably we were listed as one of the most active in social, because we post every day, multiple times a day. Which is not common, right? So, well, it's become more common. I'll say now. But we're very strategic in what we engage in. So we're not just peppering the network with Apex this, Apex that, but what we are peppering with, right? What we are putting out there are heavy hitters, right? So, case in point, we have an amazing brokerage team at our organization. During the pandemic, I had never seen a team so well entrenched in keeping up with the constant changes. When I say constant, the customs changes that were occurring were not just daily; it was multiple times a day. So
that's tough to keep up with.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and nobody. I mean, the poor importers, they didn't know. They didn't know how to understand it from Adam, because they were like, I've never imported PPE before. I don't understand what this is. What is this thing called, emergency use authorization? I don't get it. So I worked collaboratively with that department, and I said, listen, we can make this happen in a different way. They also were looking for a new way to get these updates to our customers, right? I said, okay, let's put it online. Let's put it on our website. And we collaboratively created a portal that customers, prospects, targets could log into to educate themselves on. And it was we constantly kept it updated.
You give your prospects for free access to the portal?
We gave people access. We published it on social media. We published it. Yep. It was, and we published an ebook. So it was like I said. So the things that we put out there were heavy hitters. They were important at the time, and they were done at the right time at the right place. And because of these things, we really did develop a significant name for ourselves in the market. And I say the market not just from our buyers, but just in the market in terms of our viewers. So, and then of course you have the operations themselves. And because that was one component that we kind of already had in place, is we have a high percentage of execution. So when we say we will, we do. And so that was like, that makes it easier to market, right? I mean, like, we're not selling you something, a poor product here. We're actually selling you something that we do really well. Um, the messaging just needed to get out there. So I was fortunate to have come into it having a product that, or working with a product or set of products that already were good, right? The name, the branding was needed some support um, to put our name out there, so that companies would come to us instead of us always going to them.
Right.
And like I said, even though it sounds odd, but the timing really did work out well, if you will, as well as can be during a pandemic. That because people were paying attention, and we were already doing the right things. Um, it's like kind of like the stars all aligned on that. So I can't say I take 100% credit, but I will say I definitely saw the opportunity and I took it.
Yes. You definitely made an interesting impact based on your actions directly, and not trying to be a passive marketer, but someone who's, engaged, active in the industry, and in all the unique communication tools right at your fingertips that other competitors may not even be thinking about, because they're not taking the time to take a step back, really take a look at the bigger picture. And it appears that you are doing that. And so with that, my friend, in winding this thing down, anything else actionable or strategic that you want to share before we wrap up here?
Actionable and strategic. So I'm going to pretend like I'm speaking to an audience of CMO, CCO. That's their goal, right? And I'm going to say, make a plan, right? Make a plan. Your marketing plan is critical, right? Make a plan, make a budget, but always, 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 always be willing to fluctuate on that plan, and continue to monitor the market. What is it doing? And I think that that's also a given. However, because it changes so dynamically now, you need to be more willing to, especially again in my space, in our industry, you need to be very willing to take a risk, take a different channel. Like it was a risk for me to go and publish to the news that we're doing this thing, even though it wasn't a bad thing that we were doing, but it was taking an entire message that the whole country was, the whole world really was only thinking about it from this one perspective. And I was telling everybody through that article, you need to look at it from this perspective. So take that risk.
I love it. What's the best way for people to find you, follow you, and get into contact with you?
Oh, my email address is really simple. You can just contact me at holly.qualman, QUAL, M as in mom, AN as in Nancy, at apexglobe.com. Our website is www.apexglobe.com. And if you want to go visit that PPE portal, go to www.apexlogisticsinternational.com.
And you're easy to find on LinkedIn too, because how many Holly Qualmans are there? I've never seen the last name Qualman before. Is that a popular last name?
I'm pretty sure I'm the only Holly Qualman. It is not a popular.
Indeed you are, my friend. Indeed you are.
It's not a popular last name, but I do have some legacy in my family, and that comes with that last name. So I have some pretty successful. I come from a pretty successful line of business people on my dad's side. So
interesting.
But I did pave my own path, 100%.
The legacy lives on, my friend. Thank you for hanging out with us today and sharing and spending your time. I very much appreciate it. I'm going to wind this down. Stick around for one quick second here. Man, I can't even talk today. Stick around for one quick second. Everybody, make sure you go connect with Holly on LinkedIn. Visit apexglobe.com. I thought it was Apex Global. apexglobe.com. Make sure you go visit, connect. Make sure you go find the podcast. If you want to check out past episodes, please go to iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, wherever you like to listen. And if you search up B2B Mentors, you can find us. Leave a 5-star review so others can find the show too. And I'm going to try this one more time because I tried this at the beginning for you guys. Our partners at Active Blogs have an exciting announcement for you. Imagine working on your content marketing strategy at a luxury resort as a celebration of getting back to normal life. I wanted to loop you in that for the month of June, our partners, Active Blogs, are giving away a luxury resort stay for those who oversee content production in their company. So if you want to learn more about that, go to activeblogs.com. If you're already thinking your company should find a better and more efficient way to get your content done, activeblogs.com can do all your blogs, newsletters, social media content while saving you tons of time, improving your quality, and giving you a much better result. Go to activeblogs.com to learn how to take advantage of that trip. With that, my friends, we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah.